Hello guys, and welcome back to another tutorial. So on today's video we're going to learn how to make this one-sided off-shoulder corporate top. If you're interested in learning how to make this, keep on watching and let us get right into the video. So to draft this, I have my pattern on fold, as you can see over here. We're going to start off by marking out our shoulder measurements. You can see that we've gone ahead to rule out all the necessary lines as well. So we're going to mark our shoulder measurements divided by 2, and we're going to mark that, and from that point we're going to come down by 1 inch. From the 1 inch we came down by, we're going to mark our armhole depth, which is 7.5 inches, and now I'm going to rule out the line. Now for the neckline area, I'm going to mark 3.5 inches for the neck width, and I'm just going to mark that out and then mark out our shoulder slope. So we're not going to do anything for the neckline for now till we open it up. Now I'm going to take note of what I have there, and I'm going to divide that by 2, and I'm going to mark it out. After marking that out, we're going to come out from that point by 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to extend this line here, my chest line. I'm going to rule out that line at that point, and then after ruling out the line, I'm going to mark my bust measurement divided by 4. So I'm going to mark my bust measurement divided by 4 at that point, and then from that point I'm using that as a guide to curve out my armhole. After marking that out, I'm going to go ahead to just label all the lines: our chest line, bust point line, under bust, waistline, and the full length. So this is supposed to be the full length there, but because we have sort of like a basque effect at the bottom part, we went ahead to extend the lines by about 3.5 to 4 inches, depending on how deep you want yours to be. Now on this point here, I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement, and I'm taking that measurement all the way down. My nipple to nipple measurement is 7 divided by 2 is 3.5 inches, and now I'm just going to rule out the lines all the way down. Next, what I'm going to do is from that point there, I'm going to come up by 1/2 inch, not 1 inch. I went ahead to mark 1 inch there, but you're supposed to go up by 1/2 inch and then extend that line. Now my under bust line, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch inwards, and we're going to take that 1/2 inch all the way down. Then on the opposite side, we're going to mark 1 inch. If I was working on a regular top, I would make that 1 inch 1.5 inch, but because this is a corporate top, I'm going to be making mine 1 inch instead of 1.5 inches. So I'm going to mark that out on both sides. Next, we're going to move to the armhole area, and then we're going to take note of the measurement we have on our armhole, and we're going to divide that by 2. Once you mark the armhole and you divide it by 2, whatever you have, you use that to mark as your midpoint at the armhole area. So guys, my phone stopped recording at this point, but I was basically saying you divide that into 2 and you mark the midpoint. So from the midpoint, you want to use your curve to curve this back to your bust point the way I did right here. Next, what I was explaining earlier was at this point here, you're supposed to come up by 1/2 inch, and then you rule that all the way down. So I'm doing that again so you understand. I'm dividing this into 2, and the midpoint is what I'm going to use to mark at that point I already marked out already. And then you're just using your curve to curve this all the way down to that 1/2 inch mark we made. So that is it. I hope you understand. We're no longer using the other line, so I just cancelled it out a bit so you know what we're working with. Now we're going to go ahead to rule the lines from our bust point down to our under bust line we made. Next, on the armhole area, we're going to go ahead to take out 1/2 inch on both sides. So I'm marking out 1/2 inch on both sides of our armhole area, and we're going to curve this back to our bust point the way you see me doing right now. So right now there's a lot of lines at the top part. I'm just going to retrace this with my marker so you know the lines we're working with. Now on this dart part here, I'm going to take note of what we took out, which was half an inch, and I'm going to return it back to that part where we added our bust measurements. And now I'm just adding in my under bust measurements, my waist and hip measurements divided by 4. And when you mark your measurements, you want to make sure that you're returning the dart you took, the 1.5 inch dart you took at the bottom part. You want to make sure you're returning that back. So I'm going to go ahead to do that. After marking this out, I'm going to go ahead to rule the measurements to meet each other. Now I didn't add any seam allowance, so I'm just going to write it out there to add allowance, so I do not forget to add my allowance on the fabric, because sometimes we tend to forget. I'm also not going to cut out our neckline until we're done drafting this, so we're going to open it up and then cut out the neckline. Now we're going to cut this out, but before that I'm going to extend the lines at this point all the way down, and then we cut it out. You can also choose to cut out the shape of your basque on the pattern before cutting it out on the fabric, but for this particular basque I just prefer to cut out the pattern and then retrace the basque on the fabric. So one thing we forgot to do is at this point here where we took out 1 inch dart, we want to replace that 1 inch that we took at this point here. So I just extended the 1 inch out, and then we're going to retrace our armhole all the way back to our measurement. So you can see that we took out ½ inch dart there, so we're just replacing it at that point there, and I'm marking this out, and then we're retracing it back to our measurement, and then after that we're going to continue cutting. After cutting this out, this is what we have. I'm just going to open this up. So before we cut out this part here, we want to extend these lines. So I've gone ahead to extend the lines, as you can see. So before we do anything else, we want to label this part here is the right side, while this part here is the left side, so we do not get confused. Now I'm going to close this part up, and then from the right side I'm going to mark my body measurement again divided by 4. So we're going to start off with our bust measurement divided by 4. We're going to go ahead to mark it out, and then our under bust, waist and hip measurement divided by 4. After marking that out, we're going to retrace the measurements to meet with each other, and then we're going to cut this out. We're also going to readjust the armhole back, because this part here is not going to have any darts, and the right side is also the part where we have the off shoulder as well, so you want to take note of that. So I'm going to go ahead to open up the pattern so we can cut out our neckline. So the center part, this line you have at the center, we're using that as the midpoint to mark out our neckline. Sorry that part wasn't in frame, but I basically went down from this point here by 3 inches for the neck depth, and at the sides here we're going to come down by 4.5 inches. Now we're going to use our curve to curve this from the shoulder part all the way to the armhole area. So you're just going to curve this all the way to create that off shoulder look at the sides. So this is what the neckline is looking like. So you can see what we have right here. Now we're going to go ahead to cut this out. So we've gone ahead to readjust the right side. Now we're going to go ahead to cut the left side. So you want to also take note that this part we just drafted is the main fabric piece. We're also going to retrace this pattern to alter it to fit for the lining part. So the lining part is going to be different from the main fabric piece for the front, but the back is going to stay the same. So I'm going to explain how we're going to use this pattern. So we're going to have slash and spread for the main fabric piece. So we're going to open this up. When you open this up, this is what we're going to use for the main fabric piece for the front, which has the slash and spread. Then when you close it up, we're going to use this side here, meaning these two pieces here, we're going to use it for the lining piece. So you're going to see this subsequently in the second video, how we were able to sew the blouse. So now we're going to work on the second piece, which is going to be used as our lining for the front. You can see that I just went ahead to fold my front piece. The first piece we had, we went ahead to fold it, and I'm just placing this on a fresh piece of paper, and we're going to trace this on the fresh piece of paper. So you can see that I'm going ahead to pin this down. We're going to place this and just trace it out so we can use that to cut out our lining pieces. So I'm going to go ahead to trace this out. After tracing this out, I'm going to go ahead to cut it out. So this is what we have after cutting. Now we're going to use these two pieces to cut out the lining piece. One is going to be on fold while the other will not be on fold. Then we're going to use these two pieces to cut out the main fabric piece. I hope you understand. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. Now this is the back pattern. I already went ahead to draft everything and added our dart. You can see that I left out zipper allowance. I'm just going to mark that out so you know that part there is our zipper allowance. And then for the neckline, I'm going to bring in the pattern paper we just cut out for the lining piece, and we're going to place that on top, and then we're just going to trace it out. Now at the zipper area here, you want to come in by half an inch and then retrace that back into your measurement. This is going to help eliminate bulging at your zipper area. So the back piece doesn't have any basque, so it's going to remain shorter than the front piece. So the length we're working with for the back piece is 22 inches, and the front is going to be longer than the back. So now we're going to go ahead to cut this out. So after cutting out the back piece, this is what we have. Now we're going to set this aside and work on the slash and spread for the front. So we're going to slash the sides open, and it's going to start from the waistline here. So I'm going to go ahead to cut this open, but you're not going to cut it entirely through. You're going to leave it almost ½ inch to the end, and I'm cutting this in no particular order, so I'm just going to go ahead to slash this. After cutting this out, I'm bringing in a fresh piece of paper, and I'm just placing this down on the fresh piece of paper, and then we're taping this down to secure the patterns in place. After taping this down, I'm going to use my marker to just retrace the lines to meet each other. So we're creating a new line at the sides here. I'm just tracing them all the way down to meet with each other, and then I'm going to go ahead to cut this out following the lines we've made. So this is what we have. We're going to move on to start cutting this on our fabric. So for the back piece, we're going to cut this out, leaving ½ inch joint allowance at the shoulder, and at the side we're going to leave 1.5 inches seam allowance. You can use 1 inch as well, it still works the same. And at the bottom, I'm going to just leave our sewing allowance at the bottom as well. For the front, we're also going to cut everything out. You can see I already left out my seam allowance at the sides. I'm going to cut this out. I also went ahead to add an extra 1.5 inch at the bottom to add to our basque length. So I'm just going to cut everything out. So guys, we've come to the end of this tutorial. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to sew this top. If you enjoyed watching this video and you found it helpful, do not forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not yet subscribed already, and if you enjoy videos like this, you're also going to enjoy this video right here. So go check it out, and I will see you guys on the next one.